Did you know that there once lived a Native American named Squanto? Though the English called me Squanto, I was the one who bridged two vastly different worlds, becoming not just the first translator between my people and the English settlers, but also their teacher in a land that was as foreign to them as their ships were to us. My story begins in the Patuxet village, where the sweet waters met the great sea before fate carried me across the ocean and back again. Gather close, that I will tell you my story. A story that begins in the lands where my ancestors' bones rest, where the pines whisper ancient secrets, and where the soil knows the touch of countless generations of my people's feet. I am Tisquantum, though the English call me Squanto, and my tale is one that spans two worlds, crossed great waters, and changed the fate of many. Before the great sickness came, before I learned the tongue of the pale-faced strangers, I lived among my people, the Patuxet. Our village sat proudly where the sweet waters met the great sea. We were fishermen, farmers, hunters. I remember the rhythm of our days. The women tending the three sisters in our fields, corn standing tall like warriors, beans climbing their stalks like children at play, squash spreading their leaves like blankets across the earth. I remember the men in their fishing canoes, reading the moods of the water, knowing where the cod would swim thick as clouds. But fate had other plans for me. One day, I remember it was when the leaves were beginning to turn their colors, a strange ship appeared on our waters. We had seen such ships before, traded with their people. But these men were different. They came with smiles and trinkets, but their hearts were dark. As I walked the beach, examining their strange goods, they seized me. I can still feel the rough ropes on my wrists, still hear my people's shouts fading as the ship carried me away from everything I had ever known. The great water crossing. That is something I would not wish on my worst enemy. Days upon days of nothing but heaving seas and sickness. The ship creaked like a dying tree in winter storms, and the sailors spoke in their harsh tongue that meant nothing to me then. They took me to a place they called Spain, where the air was thick with strange spices, and the buildings reached higher than our tallest trees. I was sold like a prize catch at the fish market. But the Great Spirit works in ways we cannot understand. A group of holy men, they wore long brown robes and spoke softly, took me in. They taught me their prayers, their letters, their ways. Though I longed for home, I learned. Oh, how I learned. Their words became mine. Their strange marks on paper began to speak to me. But my heart remained with my people. Years passed, and I found my way to England, a land of endless fog and stone forests they called cities. There I met a man named Thomas Dermer, a trader who promised to take me home. Home. How that word sang in my dreams. But when we finally returned, the village where I had played as a child, where I had learned to fish and hunt, where my family had lived for generations, empty, silent. The great sickness had come like a winter wind, leaving nothing but bones and memories. My people, the Patuxet, all gone. Can you imagine? Standing in the place where your mother once sang, where your father taught you to make arrowheads, where your sisters laughed, and finding nothing but ghosts. Then came the people they called Pilgrims. I watched them from the shadows at first, these strange folk who didn't know how to read the land. They were dying, these people. Their children were hungry. Their gardens yielded nothing but weeds. They were as lost as I had been on that ship so many years ago. I could have let them perish. Perhaps I should have, but something spoke to me. Perhaps the wisdom of my ancestors, perhaps the Great Spirit himself. I saw an opportunity to create something new from the ashes of what was lost. The day I walked into their settlement. Their faces. Here was a savage speaking the king's English better than some of them could. But more than their surprise, I remember their desperation, their hope. They were like children in our lands, not knowing the simple things every Patuxet child knew: how to read the seasons, how to court the corn from the earth, how to find fish in the streams. I showed them how to plant the corn, not in their straight soldier-like rows, but in mounds with fish buried beneath to feed the soil. I taught them how to watch for the signs. When the oak leaves grew as big as a mouse's ear, that was when to plant. I showed them how to catch the fat cod, how to find the best eels, how to stalk the deer. I taught them what my father had taught me, what his father had taught him. But let me tell you something I've never told them. Every time I taught them our ways, a piece of my heart broke. Because I knew. Oh, I knew that every skill they learned, every secret of our land I shared, made them stronger, made them more likely to survive, made them more likely to thrive and multiply in the lands where my people had lived since the Great Spirit first shaped the world. They called me friend, named me their savior. The other native peoples, those who survived the Great Sickness, they watched with suspicious eyes. Massasoit, the great sachem of the Wampanoag, he understood what I was doing, but others, they called me traitor. Perhaps they were right. Perhaps they were wrong, who can say? I walked between two worlds, the world of my ancestors and the world of these newcomers. I spoke two tongues, lived two lives. I helped build a bridge between peoples, but I watched that bridge become a road. And that road bring more ships, more settlers, more changes to our lands. And now you ask me, was it worth it? Did I do right by my people? By the memory of my fathers? I still don't know. I am like a tree with roots in two different soils, drawing life from both, but never fully belonging to either. My story is not just mine. It is the story of what happens when two worlds meet, when old ways clash with new. It is a story that continues long after I am gone. Remember this tale, you who listen. Remember that I, Tisquantum, once walked these lands, spoke with two tongues, and tried to build understanding between peoples who saw the world through different eyes. Whether I succeeded or failed, that is for the Great Spirit and time to judge. Okay, goodbye for now. If you love this story, make sure to like and subscribe for more incredible tales from World History Marathon.